legendary Star Wars collector, and we'll talk more about Gus and all the great things. You guys probably know him way better than you actually know me. We have Jeremy Beckett, also a legendary Star Wars collector. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be hosting a panel on Star Wars location hunting in Tunisia. Why Tunisia? It is the gem of all Star Wars tourism locations, so that's why we're focusing exclusively on this one itself. We have a lot of content to get through. We also would love to have Q&A session as well at the end, so hopefully we can get to that point. Gus and Jeremy, they have tons of stories to talk about, and we'll get into that as well as we go further. So let's move forward here. So what we'll be talking about in Star Wars tourism, this is the map, there are 12 different Star Wars sites, film sites that we have. And then there are, the gray dots are scouted locations. There are 10 known, valid, and verified scouting locations. That's an effort that my company, Galaxy Tours, has been doing. It's been a lot of fun to help expand the Star Wars tourism map. The red dots there are Indiana Jones locations, which are fantastic for sure. One of my favorite actually in Tunisia is Tataouine, which is Indiana Jones Cairo, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark goodness across the board. We'll be talking about these sites today. Hopefully we get to all of them. Again, there's so much content to discuss, and Gus and Jeremy have a lot of stories to say, so hopefully we get through these. If not, that's okay. There's no stress whatsoever. It's meant to be a really fun engagement. We hope you have a great time. We hope we learn a lot together. There's going to be a lot of laughs we'll be able to have as well. We really hope we enjoy this experience as we go further. So I want to start out just real quickly. This is part of introducing both Gus and Jeremy and their role in the process. When I started creating GalaxyTours.com website 4 or 5 years ago during COVID, I did so because I wanted to be able to have a one-stop authoritative location of being able to find all the information about all the film sites inside Tunisia. In order to get to that point, I relied heavily on the giants that came before me, without a doubt. We have 2 of them sitting right here. This list shows you a comprehensive list of individuals that I identify as the legends and pioneers in this field. There's a lot of other ones we could list here. Let me simply tell you the methodology that I used, why I chose these individuals. All these individuals left an imprint, a digital imprint of their experiences. They left blogs, they left books. That's what they did. And so allowed to have me and everyone else who's exploring these Tunisian sites to be able to look at them and understand how these were found and what they looked like back in the early pioneer days of Star Wars tourism in the mid-90s. Gus has an amazing blog site that he did, Star Wars Traveler. This one is fantastic. Your trip was in 1998, correct, Gus?
First
one, right?
Yeah, I've done 4 trips.
4 trips. Okay, excellent, excellent. And then we had Jeremy, who did a blog, but also did a book, right?
Yeah, so the blog was from my 1999 trip, and the book was kind of written before my 2002 trip, and then the tour company set up a prototype.
Exactly right. Jeremy and I had a real close connection. Tataouine Tours is like Galaxy Tours 1.0, and then Galaxy Tours is followed 20 years later in Tataouine Tours' footsteps. So we have a really close connection, really good friends. All 3 of us are really good friends. We have a passion for what this topic is, and we're eager to share this with you.
One great thing, I think all of us learned from the people before. I had been talking to David West Reynolds about, he had done some articles at Stars Insider, and my wife and I had planned to go for years actually, but getting information on where to go is what kept postponing our trip. Lionel was the one who really helped with a lot of precise locations I didn't know. And then the funny thing, on the second trip we did to Tunisia, I was shopping around for stuff that had been sold off the set, and this guy pulls up in this vehicle, this Jeep with the Imperial logo on the side. And so we're in this small desert town. He comes up to me and goes, "Are you Gus Lopez?" And I'm like, "What?" We're in the middle of nowhere. And it was Philippe Vani, who I then became great friends with, and have been visiting the country with him over the years. So the point being that we all learned from our predecessors and then passed on the information. When my wife and I got back, we were the first to really post directions and GPS to every single location, and then that opened it up for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I read the original Insider article that David West Reynolds had written, and that really inspired me. But getting to Tunisia is one thing. I live in the UK, it's a holiday destination, it's easy. Getting out of Sousse or your resort area, that's a big step. And I only got my driving license about a week before. So in the preparation for this trip, my wife said, "You can do it, but you've got to know where you're going." I contacted Gus and Lionel and Philippe and they took me lot of information as well. And yeah, I learned a lot on that trip. And how to change a tyre, because I think I was 20k into the trip and straight into a pothole.
Jeremy, on his blog, you can actually still find this. It's been archived on Star Wars locations done by Bill Chiric, right?
Yeah.
So while Bill Chiric, he actually archived all this data. And so you're able to see Jeremy's blog, and he talks about the flat tire, he talks about all that goodness. You see Gus, what he did there. So we're really thankful for Bill for actually preserving all these websites, so we can actually see these as they are. We did invite all these other individuals to attend this panel. We were able to get Gus and Jeremy with me. Philip Bonny is an excellent individual, fantastic. He's French, he's moving to Italy soon. He really was the explorer, the one that really broke a lot of ground here. He's very low, he doesn't really enjoy having the limelight at all. That's not his thing, right? So we respect that as well, for sure. That's why you don't hear much about Philippe, but he really was at the top of that list. So I'm going to show just some words that'll splash up here. So I like to let's make this interactive. Go ahead and raise your hand. Everyone, as you see the words, they're done in grouping by font and colors. When you stop recognizing things that associate with Tunisia tourism for Star Wars, go ahead and put your hand down. I just want to get an idea of how familiar you are with different things that connect Star Wars to Tunisia in the group itself. So here's the first list. A lot of these should be really familiar, okay? You see, if you don't know all of them, that's okay, but this should look pretty familiar, all right? This should also be pretty familiar, very connected, like famous lines as we go. These might become a little less, but still good, right? Still there, okay? Luke Starkiller, he was actually still Luke when they shot him show up at Javin. So when they shot in Tunisia, that was actually still his name. And maybe now a little less, right? This is the tough one. This is where it goes. Okay, all right. The Utapau connection is super fun, right? It was Utapau before George Lucas visited in 1975 in November, and then a month later he did the fourth draft on the 1st of January 1976, and Utapau became Tataouine because he stayed in the city of Tataouine. And so that's where we have that connection there. So that's how Utapau makes sense. The 3 different moons, as of 2015, the 3 different moons of Tataouine, fictional Tataouine, are 3 cities that surround real-world Tataouine, Gobrasan, Germesa, and Chini. So that's where that comes from as well, right? So all sorts of good stuff. Menzel, Gorfa, Kassar, these are actual structures that we'll talk about today, all right? So fun time. Super impressed. Thanks for putting your hands up. Really appreciate that, all right? So the first film site we'll talk about, we're on the island of Jerba. This is Ajin, this is Mos Eisley, Cantina land, and all other sorts of Mos Eisley goodness. What I want to do here is go ahead and read through the data. We're not going to talk to all those bits, but as you look at this type of presentation, especially this map here, which shows the film site area in the neighborhood, just in the center of Ajin, want to have Jeremy go ahead and talk about some of your stories, discoveries here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roundabout.
We have the abandoned bakery, that was the cantina entrance itself. This is the exterior. It was not actually, they never entered the building itself, okay? It's in ruins, it's falling more and more in ruins every day. My company is actually looking at trying to acquire this building to be able to renovate it and turn it into something of a tourist destination. The problem is there are 50 different Tunisian owners who own this location because of how inheritance laws work. So it's somewhat problematic. We're working through that. It's all sorts of fun legal things for sure. I want to show this here for you. This shows you where the actual entrance, the faux entrance that they built in front of it. So that entrance leads right into the dome wall. So they walk through there, but they don't enter the actual bakery itself. That's what that looks like. This is what we had for 1975 before we started putting props up or anything else. This is from the scouting location trip they did in November 1975. We have John Barry to thank for all of these nice black and white negatives from the scouting trip that they took, okay? And you can see that there's a school in the background, the tree. The school is still there, it's founded in 1934. The tree is no longer there, but obviously they put all the wonderful decor for the crashed spaceship in order to cover all of that. This wonderful granary, this is what's called a gorfa, or a grain storage area. This is no longer there, sadly, but this was a huge part of the set. You don't really ever see that in film. You see a glimpse of it when Luke hops out of the land speeder. You see the back of it. You don't see a lot in the film, but it kind of was a barrier for the set of going to the cantina itself. So I wanted to put this one up today because I hope you've seen the wonderful cosplayer here, right?
What is his name?
His name is Ken Nightingale. And he passed away a couple years ago, sadly, right? But he's amazing. So I love seeing the pink shorts boom guy, right? Because there's a difference, right? Who doesn't, right? And it's all, it's always the ones that look the best shirtless, that's for sure, right? That's the way it works. So we like to see this. This is right outside in front of the cantina, as you have that. Celebration, you had Alec Guinness celebrate his 62nd birthday on set on the 2nd of April. This one here shows you the modern cafe that is now there. It is a moped hotspot, right? They had tea for Alec Guinness's.
Mos Eisley street gangs.
Well, yes, but they're not colored in any way, right? So it's definitely derived from there without a doubt, right? So you always get a lot of guys hanging out here, Tunisian culture to hang out at your tea rooms, so they hang out there quite consistently is what you have. I like to think they do that to celebrate.
But don't be scared of these guys. Tunisians are so friendly.
Absolutely, they are the best in that way. Here gives you an idea, we're spending a little longer time on here because it's the biggest film site. This is the plaza area. I hopped up on the roof above that cafe that I showed you to get these pictures here, so you can see what the plaza looks like. That arrow simply shows you where the land speeder started from the security checkpoint and then drove to get to the cantina itself. Dome number 2 is the only one of the original 3 domes that you see in the plaza that are actually still there. That's what the dome now looks like. Okay. This was the only location in Tunisia where they used the motorized land speeder on footage, where you actually have the wheels. And this caused some of the issues that George Lucas didn't like in terms of the orange blob that they had to put on, because they put Vaseline on the lens in order to make sure to cover up the wheels. And this was one of those things that led to the special edition. So you can thank that for all that goodness in there, right? That's not a judgment value. It's all good. Everything's good, right?
One thing I would say also, this region of Tunisia, with the island of Jerba, these dome buildings are very sort of unique architectural styles in that region. And it's one of those things, like the location scouting actually influenced the design of, it wasn't like they looked at it and said, wow, just the architecture looks like it's from another planet. And then in some cases they built like artificial, facades that look in the same style. But it was interesting that area became part of Star Wars because the buildings just look naturally like from someplace else.
Which makes it fun when you actually go, especially in the German area. You feel like you're in a natural Star Wars set.
Yeah.
You see other buildings.
Cool buildings, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing. It makes it really that organic feel for you. This is the security checkpoint. You have the X34 land speeder street, which is the main one. The name of the street is called Rue Habib Tamor. And then you have this side street as well. Okay, we'll talk about what's really important here because it leads to some real confusion. Okay, this is the famous security checkpoint. It's the same spot. So here goes to here. These are not the droids you're looking for. Classic legendary line. Cosplayers love to go to this location if they find the right one. And I'll talk to you about that. To go to this location and be able to reenact these scenes, it's a great place to do this. Now, sadly, they often miss the location, okay? So on the right-hand side is a very unhappy cosplayer because he thought he was at the security checkpoint, but it was actually 1 block west on a street called Rue Hedi Shaker.
He was the bee patrol.
He was the bee patrol. You never quite made it, right? The issue is because this one has a dome, and so they often like to conflate it with the dome that you see in the film. And so you say, oh, it must be the actual dome. The problem, though, is that dome that you saw in the film is right here. It's just gone. It's buried behind the wall. Remember when you saw dome number 2 behind the wall? Dome number 1 is that one, and that one even has less to talk about. Okay, so that's why that's there, and that's why that confusion happens. So we like to avoid unhappy cosplayers. We want to make sure you get to the right place for sure. Okay? This gives you just a view. They're all connected quite easily together. Just one small neighborhood right around. Amgar Mosque. All right, let's talk about this. Gus.
Yeah, so this is an interesting location. So those that are old school remember the original version of Star Wars. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi's house. In the special edition, this one was replaced with. They actually had a model that they made of the new view of it in the current versions of the films. But in the original Star Wars, this is a small decommissioned mosque. And one of the things people don't realize about this location is it's actually on the Mediterranean. Like it's actually, you'll see the fishermen leave their poles around there and boats down the hill from it. In the film, obviously, you're in this desert planet. There's no water, but as these shots, they do it. Yeah, to get it a shock because you go there and you're like, oh, okay, it's the ocean right there, and he's right on the ocean. But over the years, I've visited several times. The building gets repainted, and so one of the things that can be misleading about it is sometimes it's brown, sometimes it's white, sometimes it's got graffiti on it. It's had some wear. It's not, as far as I know, it's not like an active use by any one person who owns it. But you'll see some people sometimes squatting in it or just spending the afternoon there. But it's a wonderful location. I mean, and all of us when we visit these locations bring either digital or printed photographs from the movie and line it up. It's a really easy one to spot and line up.
My car with the landscape.
Right. Yeah.
This is the first location I visited. We got there about 5-ish at night.
Yeah.
After the long drive down from Susan, fixing the time the ferry ride. There's no roads out there when we were there.
Well, there are now.
Oh, I know.
So last time I was there, which was like 16 years ago, it was just the sand road.
Yeah.
And so now they have like a paved road.
You have a direct road from the Gym all the way to City Hall.
What happens?
Wow.
What happens at certain times of the day? The road gets flooded.
Sure.
Yeah.
The side was coming in as we got there. There's no lights out there. It was pitch black. We're trying to then get on to the next location. Oh yeah, it was not good.
Yeah, it was a rough road last time.
Yeah.
It'll be, since you're going back after Celebration, you
Yes.
will enjoy that completely.
Gotta love the cool.
You had 2 different film shots that were taken, the final cut, and then you have the last cut version, just 2 sides of the mosque themselves. Okay, you can easily spot both of these. You can see how low they got to hide the Mediterranean, the Gulf of Gabes behind there. This is locations where I matched those up. We have that issue.
Are you guys trying to acquire these?
So the Ankara Mosque we're also trying to acquire. This is from the city of the municipality of Ajin.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want to convert
Okay.
this as well.
Yeah.
Yes, right. So it's a little more difficult. It's not privately owned. It's community owned,
Yeah.
which makes it surprisingly even worse.
Even worse,
Right,
yes.
right. So it's all good. It's all good. It's all fun.
It'll make a nice fishing.
It will indeed someday. So you see here this mosaic. This is the Obi-Wan Kenobi mosaic on Ankara Mosque. This was done by the French artist Invader. He goes around the world and he does, not really with permission, he does artistic graffiti. He actually pre-makes all these mosaics and then he invades a location and plops them up all over the space. He went in November of 2019 and put up 58 mosaics all around Jerba Island. 3 of them are Star Wars related. Here in Ankara Mosque, back at the cantina, there's a stormtrooper version, and then on the north near Humsuk, there's an AT-AT near some random pile, I believe, that he created. He actually has a app where it's an Invader app where you can go and you can say that you've been to each one, kind of like Pokemon Go, and you can check it and say you go to the list, right? So it's pretty cool that he does that. So people have mixed feelings. Is that nice to have a mosaic there or not? I simply say it's an easy way to recognize it. It's nice for marketing, right? So it kind of works that way. You guys already talked about that here. So Qasar and Marcia in Medenine. Gentlemen, you want to go first? I think you want to talk about this one? We went on Mosque. You want to talk about here?
Yeah, this one was really lucky with this one because eventually I found the
Sure.
didn't get to the courtyard. Found the sign that says, I think it said like best view or something.
Sure.
Oh, I'm going to climb up because I'm in the middle of a foreign country and I have no idea
Why
how
not?
to do it.
Right.
You know, it's what, 800-year-old mud structure. I'm going to go stand on top of it, looking straight down at Anakin's and Shmi's doorway. Absolutely blown away.
Which is this one right here. Actually, I think some enterprising individual tried to turn it into a library because in French you actually have the word library on there. There's no books in there. I've checked many times. You don't have that whatsoever. Qasar is a Tunisian fortified granary. And what they would do is they would construct these either in the mountains or on the plains in a circle around, creating a courtyard. And so all the Qasar chambers, so the granary chambers, open into the middle of the courtyard, and then the backs are all protected around the outside. So it's a way of fortifying your granary, supporting your grains. Each little Qasar, each little gorfa, each gorfa is a chamber. So Qasar is the complex, a gorfa is the chamber. Each gorfa is owned, not surprisingly, by a different family or different tribe, right? So all sorts of goodness. This is a main walkway through the middle of Medenine. This one is impossible to acquire to help preserve. It's difficult.
And when they did location,
Still in use? Absolutely.
when they did location scout,
I want to talk about this real quickly. This is from Complete Star Wars Locations. So they published in this canon book that Shmi's hovel actually has 3 doors. 1 is open, 2 are sealed. What they used, and thank goodness, the individuals who did Star Wars Complete Locations, they simply used the Qasar Omosia layout, 1, 2, 3, to do 1, 2, 3. So they followed actually the geography of the location itself, which is good to see. So now we're entering Tataouine. We're going to the only film site that was actually in Tataouine and filmed there. Real location, it's both a region and a city. Tataouine City is the capital of the Tataouine Governorate or region in southeastern Tunisia. So we come to Qasar Data. Comments, questions, or recommendations or observations?
First time I visited this place, it's a really cool drive to.
It is.
Yeah, you're climbing up a ridge on the road. It's a good road too, and you get to it. Small entrance fee, I think.
It's no entrance fee or none at all.
Okay.
The new owner Mohammed, well, it depends. The new owner Mohammed has really kept this up to date. He's done some recent renovations. We'll show.
So this was where Qui-Gon and Shmi had a little talk with the lady shaved in his hand.
Porch.
When I was there, a lot of the set dressing was there. Not of that area, but kind of further down
Here on the street.
Side passage.
So we have the main courtyard, which is where, right there, number 5 is where Qui-Gon and Shmi hung out. Down here was a street that was used for set dressings, that was not used for filming. And Gus, you have a piece from there, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, there was, when I was there was a lot of set dressing initially, and we'll talk, I think, more about set dressing and not disturbing locations. But over time, on subsequent visits, it was the set dressing was pretty much all gone from that location. But in Tunisia, everything is saved. So if some of that didn't leave with fans visiting, I have to believe there's actually some of the doors are huge and heavy. So I have to believe some of those are still in the area.